This is a video on the basics on the forehand. After you've taken a private lesson or just before you take a lesson, just kind of understanding this kind of helps. And these are exercises you can do by yourself, because the amount of time you spend with your coach and the amount of time you spend by yourself, it should be like 1 to 4. So 25% of the time with the coach and then 75% by yourself, roughly. And these are exercises you can do away from your private lessons. Now with this one, you don't need anybody else on the court. You can do this at the house, but I'm in the court right now, so I'll show you right now. Now, remember how you hold a racket, the grip, racket in front of you, and it should be parallel to the net. In this case, I've got the fence. So the racket, when you hold your racket like this, with your hand relaxed in front of you, not to the side, because if you hold it to the side, you can have the wrong grip and the racket can still be parallel. It's got to be right in front of your chest. Now, with your racket in front of your chest, if you notice, my racket is perfectly parallel to the fence. And if I put it like this, it's the same thing. It's perfectly parallel to the fence. Now, my hand is going to be in front of my body. And that's how you check that. All right, now, when you swing, standing away, you can put your racket right next to the fence. So this is about 1 inch away from the fence, about that much, about 1 inch away from the fence. And this is what the wave should look like. And when you do this, just relax your arm, and these are your checkpoints. Your racket is pointing down to the ground. And then you do a big wave, almost like you're drawing a rainbow without touching the fence. And your racket does this all the way, and then it gets to a point where it points down. And then if that was a normal swing, you turn your shoulders, and that's pretty much your whole swing. So it's racket in front, pointing down, do the wave, turn your shoulders. And then once you kind of get comfortable with that, you stand about 2 inches away this time, and then do that a little bit faster. Now, if your racket touches the fence, normally it means the grip is wrong, or you're using your wrist. Process of elimination. Do enough of this and then just check one of those one at a time. Now, if my grip is wrong, notice how the edge of my racket touches the fence way before, and so the top edge is about 4 inches away, and this one is touching. So that means the grip is wrong. And if I do the other extreme where the grip is way off this way, then my racket is touching the fence that far away and the bottom edge is not. So they all have to be very close together. And that's how you check your grip. And this is neutral. Obviously you can go slightly one direction or the other, but once you kind of get this and your racket is meeting the fence like this every time, and if you notice, my whole body gets involved. And then rotate, and then that, and then now you gotta do it fast enough you can hear this sound. All right, so once you confirm the grip and you're comfortable with the grip at this point, and if you put your racket just in front of you, again, in front of your body, not to the side, in front of you, that racket should be somewhat parallel to the fence. If you're in the house, to the wall right in front of you. And it should look like this. Now, you don't want the racket to be open. If your racket is open like this in front of you, that means when you hit the ball, that ball is gonna go straight up. And you don't want the racket facing down for obvious reasons. The ball is gonna go straight down. So you want the racket to come like this. So when you take your racket back, it's facing down, but when you start gently swinging forward, that's where my contact point is. And my racket is perfectly parallel. If it's still facing down, that means the ball is behind me. So the ball is going to be in front of me. Now that's perfect right there in front of me. And that's where I hit the ball. Okay, so that's the grip. That's the grip. Once you understand the grip, there are two other things to understand: the swing path and the follow through. Now, imagine a Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round. Picture those two things. What do you think your swing should look more like? Ferris wheel. You do not want to swing across your body. Now, to exaggerate this motion, when your racket goes back, your swing path is straight, 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 straight. That's exaggerating. There was no shoulder rotation on that one. With shoulder rotation, now it looks like straight, and then the shoulders turn. And then that's how the racket ends on the other side of the body, but not with the arm. It was mostly shoulder rotation. So, racket down. Notice my racket is not behind me. You gotta keep the racket in front, elbow in front, and racket slightly facing down at this point. Because when it goes down, it's gonna face even further down. But when you go forward without manipulating your arm or your wrist, the racket naturally opens up. And if you notice, it's the hip. My arm at this point is not moving. It's just the hip. And then I extend, and then over my shoulder. Over my shoulder, that's when this naturally happens. The wave. And that's the exercise we just practiced earlier on the fence, where you're doing this. Now, put your racket right in front of you. If you cannot make this sound, the swoosh sound, you're not swinging fast enough, and you're not doing the wave quick enough. So you want to have this. Gotta be able to hear this sound. If you're not hearing that sound, you're not swinging fast enough. So the whole thing is not gonna work as well. So get to a point where you're strong enough to be able to make that sound. All right, now swing path. Here's a quick exercise. Again, you can do this by yourself. You don't need anybody else on the court with you. So you could go 30 minutes before your private lesson, or 30 minutes before you're hitting with anybody, or whenever you wanna go. All right, I'm gonna try hit the ball over the net in the alley. And I'm going to stand behind the baseline. So, racket back, toss the ball, and if the ball doesn't go in the alley, it means I pulled it a little bit. So that means I swung across a little bit. Now, let me see if I can swing straighter. That was absolutely perfect. That was absolutely perfect. Smack in the middle, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Still in the alley. And this is a good exercise, because if you're not getting it in the alley, it means one of three things. It either means your grip is wrong, your swing path is off, or you're using your wrist. But if you can get in a straight line, like a 4 out of 5, like I just did, or if you can get 2 in a row, then that usually means you're doing pretty well. All right, so if you got 5 balls, you're aiming for about 3 out of 5. That's your target. Once you've done these exercises and you want a game or something kind of fun, every tennis court has got light poles in the middle of the court, like ours does. So I'm gonna stand close to the baseline, and I'm gonna try to hit the pole. Now, this is a great exercise to emphasize on extending your arm towards your target. Now, if I swing at this ball, at no time did my racket go towards the pole. But if I do this, bam, and I do that. This time my racket is going straight towards the pole. If I miss it, it's going to be very, very close. But just to kind of get an idea how accurate you are, you should be able to hit the target 1 in 3 attempts. It's a lot of pressure. See if I can do it. That's 1, 2, 3. Oh, 3 in a row. All right. Now, that's how you know you're accurate and you're not using your wrist and you're doing a lot of things correct. All right, the basics on the forehand grip again. These are exercises you can do at home on the court. Put your hand out in front of your body. Don't put it to the side. Put it in front of you and try to get your palm as parallel to the wall or the mirror or the fence or the net, depending where you are. Racket arm back, get your palm to extend as much as possible and keep that parallel. And I can feel all these muscles engage. Like I can feel a lot of attention. Like I can feel just holding that, I can feel the burn. And those are the muscles that engage when you do that. And then notice how my thumb is pointing up. Now do the wave and your thumb will point down. So exercise at home, thumb pointing up, thumb pointing down over your shoulder. And then back of your hand touch your ear. Forward, turn, touch your ear, and then do that a little bit faster now. And that's what a forehand should look like. Now with the racket in your hand, same thing, and just doing that a few times, I can feel those muscles engage. And you just do that one time, standing where you are right now, just extend your arm, keep your hand as parallel as possible, and you feel those muscles engage. Now, same thing, I want the racket pointing to the ground. So racket down, pointing to the ground, racket parallel to the wall, because you're doing this in your house. Pointing to the ground, and then keep it as parallel as possible all the way, point down to the ground, turn your shoulders and rest it on your over your shoulder where it's touching your back. So the whole thing looks like this. Racket back. From the side, it looks like this. From behind, notice how my racket is not going behind me at all. Racket stays in front all the time. It never goes behind me. Racket stays in front and it's slightly facing down, down, forward, over my shoulder. And don't forget, make this sound. Gotta hear that sound. And those are all the basics of the forehand. And that covers pretty much everything on the basics of the forehand. Now, when you hit enough balls on the court, I'm gonna ask you, if you come to a lesson with me, when you make a mistake, where do you normally miss it? Do you miss it long? Do you miss it wide? Do you miss it to the left or to the right? Do you miss it long or in the net? Like, if you don't know the answer to that, get back on the court, hit a few more balls. It clearly means you're not hitting enough balls. If you're hitting enough balls, you get to a point where you start seeing a consistent mistake. And then those fixes are very, very easy. For example, if I'm 19 out of 20, assuming that your grip is right and a few other things are correct, if you're missing the ball to your right, usually means you're catching the ball way behind you. Your contact point is behind you. You need to catch the ball a little bit more in front. And if you're hitting the ball way to your left, it's the exact opposite. You're hitting the ball too far in front. Again, that's assuming you're not using the wrist and your grip is fine. And after you've done this exercise, your wrist is not really moving. So that takes that out. So that means it's just the contact point. It's too far in front, you're not turning sideways, or you're using your wrist. Process of elimination. See which one that one is. If the ball is going in the net, most of the time it means the grip is wrong. You're not getting way under the ball. So your racket has to come from underneath. So this is the ball. Racket has to come from underneath and hit the ball. If you're missing in the net, most of the time it means you're doing this. You're hitting the ball from the top or from the back. Your racket has to come from underneath, going up. You always hit low to high. So if you're missing in the net, most likely you're not getting under the ball. Assuming you've checked your grip, because it could be your grip as well. All right, and if you're missing long, it means you are not doing the follow through. Again, it could be the grip, but you've checked your grip already. Then it leaves us with the follow through. If I swing, I do everything correct, and I just stop, the ball goes long. So for me to get that ball to come down, I need to do the follow through. I desperately need to do the follow through. That last bit at the end is what puts little extra topspin on the ball, and the spin is what makes the ball come down. So it looks like that. Look how high this ball is. And then the spin makes it come down. So ironically, and I know this goes against natural instincts, the faster you swing, the less likely you're to hit the ball out. Because the faster you swing, the more spin the ball has. The more spin the ball has, the sooner it comes down. Now, once you've done a few exercises, this is one of the most common mistakes I've seen with a lot of amateurs. The racket goes too far back behind your back. Now, just knowing it is one thing. You need to find drills to practice that and to try to get rid of that habit. So, grab a hopper, a basket, a box, a chair, just put something at the back. Stand right behind it. Take your racket back. Now, my racket is about a foot away from this the basket. Now toss the ball, drop. Obviously, if I take my racket too far back, I'll hit the basket. Drop. Racket back, drop. Racket back, drop. Again, this is after confirming that the grip is fine. You got to make sure that the grip is okay. If your grip is wrong, none of this is possible. You got to make sure the grip is fine. If you don't get the grip correct, you're pretty much playing catch up every time you swing at a ball, because it affects your contact point, it affects your stance, it affects your follow through. So if your grip is a little bit off, it's going to affect all of that. So you got to make sure that grip is right. I keep circling back to that because that is one of the most important things. Okay, here's a checklist. Your 5-thing checklist for you. The first thing is a grip. Parallel. We've gone through this enough. The next thing is a ready position. Racket in front of you and your elbows in front. You don't want to stand with your elbows back. Elbows in front. And then next is the turn. Notice my arm did not move. So grip, turn, step, drop the racket in front of you without taking it back, hit the ball in front, and follow through, touching your back. So the grip, ready position, take back, contact point, and follow through. Those are your checklists. Racket in front, racket drops, and at this point it's facing down. Contact point in front of you where your racket is now parallel, and your racket touches your back. Those are your checklists. So if you're doing all those things correct, your forehand is near perfect.